Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Caroline Heward and I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert. Today's show is Talking Heads and I'm an expert presenter in today's topic, which is what is academic anxiety? And it's part of the Mind and Body Connection series. Let's begin. So I'd like to start off today's presentation with a quote, and it's very aptly from The Last Skeptic. And he says, or she, I'm not quite sure if it's a she or a he, we all suffer from anxiety at one stage or another. We all worry, and we all feel like we're not good enough, especially in our society, when we're under pressure from social media. It's hugely important now to discuss and be open about how we're feeling. So we're going to go deep with this because this is much bigger than academic anxiety. This is a much wider topic. And I'd like to put in a Ram Dass quote as well, Mr. Spiritual Guru. And he says, "My whole academic career was totally out of Jewish anxiety and issues surrounding achievement and adequacy." And this is a very, very famous guru who has had it all spiritually and had massive followers and following still today. So let's explore what is academic anxiety. And when you think about it, you probably think about children at school. You're probably thinking about that it's the exams, that it's the expectation of getting the results that they get into university or they get into the college that they want to get into, or it's the expectation of what they put on themselves as to the kind of career that they want to achieve, or what is there, what are the opportunities. So, looking at this particular picture, it actually brings up some other things that maybe we don't think about in our immediacy. And that is our relationships, self-esteem, the grades, obviously, the feeling of depression, of not feeling it and not getting where we need to be, assignments. One of the words that really ring an alarm bell for me, and every time I hear it, it sends me into clear dementia, is homework. If somebody says the word homework to me, I feel uncomfortable, even now, because homework had a very, very challenging connotation for me when I was at school. Assignments feels a little easier and it feels a little nicer in terms of the language. And I was doing assignments when I was at college and university, and that didn't feel as intense, and yet it was more intense. Exams, tuition fees, being a student, work, peer pressure, and even bullying. And out of this academic anxiety, whether you are a child at school, whether you're studying your A-levels, O-levels, whether you're studying at college or university, whether you're studying for a career, a change career. This is what academic anxiety is. It's not just for the school children or the university students. This is for anyone that is studying at any time in their life. Academic anxiety doesn't just stay with you when you're at school and when you're at university. Academic anxiety is every time you set out to do any type of study. And academia has its own set of rules and its own jargon in terms of how we must and how we should respond versus how we feel. So our response and our reaction is different from how we're actually feeling. So what are the effects of academic and social anxiety? Well, I remember when I was studying, when I was at school and at college and at university, that I looked a bit like this. I was surrounded by books, by paper, by folders, files. Maybe it might be a bit different now with many things being online. I'm still in that study arena and still working towards exams, and now I'm glued to screens. So things have changed in our current times. What it feels like is that your head is in a book on a screen, that you're actually going insular, that you're going inside, and then everything surrounding you in your external world becomes and moves into oblivion. It moves away from you, and it moves you into a place of going internal and almost feeling isolated. And many successful students, they actually go so inside themselves to get through the work, the academicness of the study, of the exams, that they withdraw from their social environment. And when they do surface, they have a level of social anxiety because there is a conflict, an internal conflict of needing to show up and perform in the exams and in the academia of the study, and yet still being their true selves in their social situations. In their mind, they're not in the social situation, they're actually in their academic needs and requirements. And so it's very difficult for the student that is suffering with anxiety from academic pressure to be fully sociable, to be fully there for themselves and for their family and for their friends. And students naturally will have this distant feeling about them. They will feel naturally uncomfortable because in the back of their minds, they're looking at what they've not done, what should have been done, and that they shouldn't play, they shouldn't have that socialness in their life because they are conditioned. And that's the phrase I want to use, conditioned to perform, to regurgitate, to analyze everything that they need to do to pass the ultimate exams and assessments, to get the grade that tells everyone else, yes, I am good enough, and I am good enough, and this is how I'm showing up, and this is my proof. I myself have been caught in the trap of the paper qualifications all of my life. Ever since I started doing exams at school, I've been that proverbial student. And it doesn't matter how old you are, and it doesn't matter what exams or study or training that you're doing. It will always feel like it's the most important thing that you have to do. My school exams were the most important thing that I had to do well and get through. And then my college exams, and then my university exams, and all the other stuff in between. And since then, always the last thing that I'm studying is the most important thing. So it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter what it is that you're studying. What matters is the experience of the anxiety that you feel and the pressure that is put upon you from others, your peers, and expectation that's placed upon you to achieve what you want to achieve personally, but the pressure of performing in your external world to get the credential that you feel that you need, desire, want to achieve, to feel that you are there, that you have got it, that you have got that self-actualization that says, I have achieved and I am with it and I'm going to now be accepted. One of the things about this academic and social anxiety is that when you do get it and when you do achieve the results that you need to achieve, what happens is that something very powerful overtakes. And that is that when you've achieved what you think you need to achieve, the person that goes after one academic qualification after another and wants to achieve a lifelong of achievements through academia feels, well, okay then, what next? What else do I have to do? Because it's a perpetual cycle. It's almost like a hamster wheel that it drives you. One of the things that I found in that academic anxiety cycle is that I was surrounded by a lot of people that didn't have the kind of qualifications that I had an expectation, and hear that word, I had an expectation that people in those positions of high places would have. And I started to feel a little angry and frustrated that I had done a lot of that work and a lot of that academia study, and yet there were people in higher and much more higher ranking positions that hadn't done that type of work and yet still got the glory and the gratification. And that is something that happens if we are caught in this trap of needing to have that academic social ability to be seen, to be accoladed. And it generally affects the perfectionism of the person needing to have everything I's dotted, T's crossed. I've done that, I've achieved that, and therefore this will give me this. It doesn't always work out that way. And this is where we can suffer with the anxiety that we experience of not feeling fulfilled. So let's look at the cycle of academic anxiety. It starts generally with parental expectations. And we can put into that box our peers' expectations and also our own personal expectations, especially if we come from a family of achievers, if we come from a family that has always done well, a family of doctors or lawyers, people that have made the grades in that academic world and society. So there is an external pressure, whether it's from ourselves, our parents, our peers, our school teachers, our academic environment, there is an expectation, which then leads to academic stress. Am I going to perform? Are things going to work out? Am I going to get the grades that I need to get? Am I going to be as good as I need to be? And on some level, many people have this shortened expectation of themselves, this lack of self-worthiness that they can do it, or a worry of lack of being able to achieve that efficacy that's required to achieve that academic qualification and status. And this affects the emotions of your own self-efficacy, of what feels comfortable versus what is usually what people see or expect from you. I certainly have had the experiences of working hard, really hard, for the qualifications and for the academic papers behind me. That doesn't bode well in terms of me handling the emotions of it, because that drive and that push for being hardworking and that achievement at the end of it, which is always, from my perspective, and I'm sure for many people, almost short-lived, that you get it, you get the result, you get the accolade, and then it's kind of, well, what next? And in this regulatory time of managing your own efficacy, of handling the worries, the concerns, the frustration, the anxiousness about not achieving what you need to achieve to get the grades, to get through that academic hurdle, brings academic stress. So it kind of falls back on itself. And also in this model, it actually says test anxiety. And I would actually stretch that to even say exam anxiety, because every time I hear the word exam, it puts me into a feeling of almost a straitjacket. I have to regurgitate everything that I have read and I have seen and I have been told, otherwise I don't get the grades. And then I fail. And so the test, the assessment, the exam experience that we feel puts us under pressure and creates anxiety. Now, anxiety lives in the mind. This is where it lives. It doesn't live in feeling, it lives in the mind. And anxiety is typically, and if you understand that it's all about the future stuff, what we're hoping to achieve, what we're hoping to get from that test, from that study, it's all future tense. And so we're worried and stressing and getting anxious about what hasn't happened, what might happen, what could happen, what happens if we don't succeed. And anxiety lives in the mind. It doesn't live anywhere else. It only lives in the mind. And the academic stress lives in your mind. It doesn't live in the sensory experiences of your body. It actually has an impact and an effect on your physiology. It has an impact and an effect on your life and how you show up and how you perform in your exams and in your social life and in your family and also in your entire beingness. So my invitation for you is to move through what you're thinking and feeling and move through to a better state of beingness. So how do we move through some of these things? Well, strategies to overcome academic anxiety. One of my richest gifts that I can share with you here is make time to plan, time to be in that academic beingness, because it is a role that we take on. It is a beingness that we take on. We take on an efficacy of being a student in a student lifestyle. And I would honestly say that I can really associate with being a student, and I have been a student my entire life. And that feeling of always preparing for that next bout of studying, that next bout of training, that next qualification that gives me whatever I feel that I need, has an element of having to make time for it. And it might be that you study at night. It might be that you get up early in the morning. It might be that you study different aspects. But my invitation for you here right now is to plan in your diary time to do the work that is important to get through the academic anxiety. Because when you plan and you schedule, then those anxiety experiences that your mind plays out are not there in the same way because you're in it. You're actually planning ahead and allowing the time. And time is precious, and time can run away with itself very quickly if you haven't executed a time to plan. And a planning of your study in order to succeed in the test, the assignment, and the exam phase. And when we fail to plan, and then we fail to allow the time that we need to study to get the academic achievement that we desire, this is where anxiety resides, where we haven't allowed the space. So what are the 4 facets of academic anxiety? Well, it affects the physiological parts of us. So we might have headaches. It might be migraine. It might be what's known as mind fog, where the mind is so cluttered with so many things that it can't think straight. And it can't take stuff in. And so we become overwhelmed because we're stuck in a book that we're rereading and revising and regurgitating and going over the same stuff over and over again, to a point that we're actually not taking it in, which creates mind fog. And when we feel like that, we can be there hours and hours and just not taking it in. It can affect our eating habits, where we don't feel hungry. We might not be nourishing ourselves because we're burning the midnight oil or working through the time and not realizing how much time that we have spent in the experience of the study. And when we do that, when we lose sense of time and space, we start to suffer physically. It could be that we become not nourished. We haven't given ourselves enough water. It could also be that we've wound ourselves up so much with the anxiety of the achievements, perceived non-achievements, because that's what it is, it's perceived, the non-achievement of what we might not get. So we work harder and push through. And when you're pushing through, it has an effect on the anxiety levels that you will experience. Cognitive. This is where the inner talk, the self-dialogue of I'm not good enough, I haven't done enough work to pass this exam, therefore I will fail. It's all of that negative self-esteem or lack of self-esteem conversation that we're familiar with. Everybody else thinks that we're going to do well. And they said, oh, you've got it, you're going to crack this. And it's very difficult in that space of everybody thinking that we're going to do well, that we don't do well. And we don't feel it that we're going to do well. And so we suffer secretly in our mind, in what we're thinking and what we're saying to ourselves. Behaviourally is how we're showing up, how we're being, how we are inviting others into our world. Are we locking ourselves away? Are you literally not allowing yourself to be seen? Are you hiding from social media? Are you hiding from your family? Are you not telling people what's really going on for you, how you're really feeling? This is a perspective of becoming insular, avoiding the way that you feel and not telling people your struggles. Behavioural also is your gestures, your physiology. Because when you do suffer with academic anxiety, there will be a feeling of going internally upon yourself. So because you don't feel it, you don't feel that you're able to achieve it, so that you work harder and suffer more. And this has an aspect of affecting your socialness, your social ability to be seen by your family, by your friends, by your peers. So it might be that you escape into the twee hours when everyone else has gone to bed and you do your study then, so nobody sees how hard you feel you need to work. And at any one time, it is not important to understand that you have to feel all of these things and experience these four facets, because you might experience the behavioural and cognitive, but not the physiological and the social. It might be that you're, sort of very comfortable in going out and socialising people, but then secretly suffering when you've come back and working doubly hard. And so it isn't about these four aspects of academic anxiety are true for everyone. You can have one or two, or a combination. It's not often that you will experience all of them. There is no right way to experience the four facets of academic anxiety, because it might be that you only have one or two of them. That doesn't stop the amount of anxiety that you suffer. And it is giving you an appreciation and an understanding of that no one size fits all. Everybody is human and we all experience in very different ways. So let's look at some strategies to overcome academic anxiety. Self-talk is a really, really big thing. Because if you are telling yourself on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a moment-by-moment basis that you're not good enough, that you're going to fail these exams, that you're not worthy of passing these exams, it will have a direct impact on your capability to do well. Because our self-talk is our own inner dialogue that creates our experiences and creates our outcomes. We can become our own worst enemy if we have that negative dialogue. So my invitation to you is to be mindful, literally minding yourself and your inner dialogue, your inner conversation, and look at the positives and look at where you want to improve and look at it in a way that's constructive rather than dismissive and antagonistically negative towards you. Your own worst enemy wouldn't be saying and talking to you the way that you are talking to you. And so my invitation is to become the best possible friend to yourself by giving yourself the best conversations, the best nurturing, and the best outcomes in terms of what you desire to experience in your external world. Because whatever you're thinking and saying to yourself becomes a reflection in your external world. My invitation for you is to give yourself everything that you need to be happy, to be content, to be fulfilled, and to know that you're going to get through the challenge and overcome the anxieties that you feel about your performance. Self-care is very, very important. To look after yourself, to nourish yourself, to feed yourself with good, nourishing food, rather than food that's being done in a microwave quickly, rather than being in the processed arena. Feed yourself nourishing food. When I was young, we used to call it brain food. Feed your brain, feed your body, nourish yourself with the best possible food. Nourish yourself with as much water as is physical for you to drink, rather than drinking coffee, which depletes water and makes you dehydrated. Drink plenty of water and nourish yourself at every point. Take breaks. Take the break that you need in order to be the best that you can possibly be for yourself, for your study and for your results. And I want to talk about the 45-15 rule. This I've been told in recent years and didn't understand this rule, which has been incredible for me. And that is when you spend 45 minutes of hard study, exam pressure study, and assignment study, take a break. Have 15 minutes of a break away from the screen, away from your books. Go and make yourself a drink. Go and have yourself a treat. But coming away, giving yourself a breather, a moment, a space. Because when you go back after that 15-minute break, you will be able to accomplish far more than sitting and slogging through another 45 minutes. The brain actually adapts to this 15-minute break, and the best training that's possible is when you do 45-minute slots and then take a break, and then you're renewed and take another 45-minute slot, even if it's to take a walk, even if it's just to look at something else, even if it's to have something to eat. That taking a break by using the 45-15 rule will give you everything that you need to honour your body and your mind. Stay present. In staying present, there are lots of ways that you can stay present to what's going on, what you're feeling, and what you're experiencing. And I want to cover the 5-5-5 rule, because when you're in the throes of the academic anxiety, it's very hard to go and take a walk, even though that's one of the greatest things that you could do to move through that feeling of academia and that anxiety that you feel internally. The 5-5-5 rule is this: breathe in slowly for 5 counts. Hold your breath for a count of 5. And breathe out slowly to the count of 5. And when you use this 5-5-5 rule with the breath, you will feel much more grounded, you will feel much more present, you will feel much more comfortable in your body. And the anxiety that you feel will shift. It will move into a place that it no longer exists, because, as I said earlier on, anxiety resides in the mind. It's actually not real. It's only becoming real because we move into the mind and we experience our world through the mind. This is about being present and in your physical body. Use the 5-5-5 rule and you will feel different pretty much instantly. To breathe in this way will move you out of your mind and into your body and into the feelings and experiences of your body. I want to cover the Pareto rule, 80-20. 80% of what you do, 80% of your results of what you achieve is from 20% of the work and the effort that you put in. And let's just look at that. 80% of your results, only 20% of the work. The difficulty, especially in academia, is to understand what you need to do, what the 20% is that you need to do to pass your exams, to get the assignments, to get through the assignments, to get through the assessments. What do you need? What are the rules? Where do you need to focus? And it's also important to know, and I've only learnt this in very recent years, certainly when I went to university, I learnt a lot because I asked questions when I was struggling. And I learnt to ask, what do we need to express, to show? And something that I learned, which was very, very powerful, is that it was important to answer every question. And sometimes what we do, especially in assessments and exams and tests, we tend to focus and put all our energy in the first, if there's 10 questions, in the first 5 questions. And we spend even more time in those questions to get the results that we think we need. And then the other 5 questions might not have the time to complete. And so if you've only done half of the questions, you can only get half of the marks. And you know, it took me a long time to work this out, to understand, to appreciate that putting all the work in the first 5 questions and then missing 2 or 3 of the questions because I'd overkilled, I'd over-answered the first 5. I'd briefly answered the second 2, making it 7, and missed the last 3. This was during the time that I didn't understand. And so I would get through by working harder than I needed to. So let's look at this in a picture sense. 20% of the effort gives you 80% of the results. 80% of the efforts gives us 20% of the results. Which 20% do we focus on? My invitation to you is to ask questions of what's important. Look at past papers, look at what comes up, because there are themes in academia of things that come up. Look at what's topical and ask. You will be surprised how much help your tutors, your trainers, your course facilitators will give you. Because when I learned this, when I learnt it, actually when I understood the Pareto principle, I started to focus on what was required, what was needed, rather than perfection, rather than distinction level. And I got the distinctions anyway, because that's what I do. And I'm sure those perfectionists of us do that. But we don't have to work as hard as what we think we have to work, because 20% of the effort gives us 80% of the results. If we work that bit harder, we get our 90% plus, which is where I pitch myself. And that's why I generally always do well. And so can you, understanding where do you put your effort, where do you focus, and the anxiety that you feel will be less. It will shift and you will feel different and better. And the anxiety will move into a place where it no longer is required. Martin Luther King said, "You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." I love that quote, because essentially what we see in academia is the mountain. We see it all and it becomes unmanageable and we get overwhelmed. And that's what anxiety is. It's an overwhelming experience that we just can't do it all. But if we take it step by step, slowly and surely, we reach the top of that mountain. Albert Einstein said, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Everybody is a genius. I have done studies with trainers, one in particular, who is very dear to my heart, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've spent many years in his training. And he greets his students with, "Hello, geniuses." And I love that because that presupposes that you are already a genius. You already have it. We just have to step into the academic stuff to show it, to prove it. So I leave you with, hello, geniuses. You've got this, and you can achieve whatever you decide to achieve. It's possible. Everything is possible because in our deepest authentic selves, we are geniuses. Thank you for your attention and your interest. Please subscribe to USA Global TV and Radio. You can find all of our Talking Heads episodes under the playlist Talking Heads 2023 and under last year's 2022. You'll find all my Talking Heads episodes under my name, Caroline Heward. Please do reach out to me if I may be of help and of service to you. You can contact me on No More Stress at live.co.uk or call if you're international, +44 if you're local, 07523 120 189. I am here to serve you. If you think that this is just a presentation, I assure you this has been much more than that. This has been a transmission to help you, guide you, and give you everything that you need to remember who you are authentically, who you really are. We are divine. We are human, having a human experience. And I invite you to embrace the challenges because the rewards are much more than what we see in the academic paper world. They are much more in terms of who we become and how we grow and how we move through the challenges and the person we become. I thank you and I am here for you. Please reach out. Namaste.